Claire Osei is 38 years old. She works as a regional sales coordinator for a logistics company in Manchester. She earns £46,000 a year. She has never earned more than £52,000 in any single year of her career. She drives a 6-year-old Ford Focus. She rents a 2-bedroom flat in a neighborhood she describes as fine. Her net worth is £340,000. That number is not a mistake. It is not a typo. It is not the product of an inheritance, a windfall, a lucky investment, or a particularly brilliant financial mind. It is the product of 10 decisions made before she turned 35. Decisions that, in most cases, took less than an afternoon to execute. Decisions that, at the time, felt either unremarkable or mildly uncomfortable, or both. Claire is not telling you this to impress you. She is telling you this because she is increasingly aware that the window for most of these decisions does not stay open forever. Some of them close gradually, some of them close suddenly. A few of them close in a way you do not discover until it is too late to do anything about it. The question this video is asking, and I want you to hold it all the way through, is not whether you have heard of these decisions. It is how many of them you have actually made. Decision 1. Start pension contributions immediately upon first employment, regardless of the amount. Not when you feel financially stable, not when the salary feels adequate. Immediately, on the first paycheck. Here is the arithmetic that makes this non-negotiable. Starting contributions at age 25 instead of 35 can turn a £225,000 lifetime contribution into over £2 million versus £931,000 by retirement age. The £1.1 million gap is driven entirely by compound growth over one extra decade. A £1,000 contribution at age 25, left untouched at 7% for 40 years, becomes approximately £14,974 at 65. The same contribution made at age 35 becomes £7,612. At 45, it becomes £3,870. The early contribution generates nearly 4 times the outcome of the same contribution made 20 years later. And here is the finding that nobody at the pension seminar mentions out loud. A 50-year-old who maximizes every available catch-up contribution for the rest of their career, contributing as aggressively as the law permits, can still retire £120,000 short of a peer who simply started at 35. Each pound contributed at 50 grew to £1.71. Each pound contributed at 35 grew to £4.19. You cannot buy back time. You can buy back almost anything else in finance, not time. Claire started contributing to her workplace pension at 22 on her first month's salary at the minimum rate that captured her employer's full match. She has increased the rate twice since. She has never missed a contribution. Her pension pot today, £127,000, built on a salary that has never crossed £52,000. The window on this decision, open now, narrowing every month, never fully closed, but permanently more expensive to enter the longer you wait. Decision 2. Buy real estate before lifestyle expectations set the floor price. There is a specific and underappreciated mechanism at work in the relationship between lifestyle expectations and property decisions. When you are 24 and have been renting a modest flat for 2 years, your reference point for what a home looks like is modest. The starter property, the small terrace, the ex-local authority flat, the house that needs work, feels proportionate to your circumstances. You can look at it clearly. By 32, after a decade of career progression, after living in nicer apartments, after attending the dinner parties of colleagues who bought well, the reference point has shifted. The starter property no longer looks like an entry point, it looks like a downgrade. And the psychological resistance to that downgrade is strong enough in many cases to delay purchase until the buyer can afford something that matches their evolved expectations, by which point prices have risen further and the initial compounding advantage is gone. The buyer who enters the market at 24 on a modest property captures years of equity growth before the lifestyle floor rises. The buyer who waits until 33 for a property that matches their evolved expectations is buying at a higher price point with a shorter compounding horizon. Claire bought a one-bedroom flat in Salford at 27 before she was married, before she felt ready, before the kitchen was the kitchen she wanted. She sold it at 33 for £47,000 more than she paid. That £47,000 became the deposit on the property she and her husband now rent out for £850 per month above their mortgage cost. The window on this decision, not permanently closed, but each year of delay adds to the price, shrinks the compounding horizon, and raises the psychological floor that makes entry feel inadequate.
Decision 3. Choose a fee-only fiduciary advisor before investment decisions become complex. The standard progression of financial advice in most people's lives is no advisor, then a friend's recommendation, then a bank's in-house offering, then eventually, after an expensive mistake or a sufficiently frightening tax bill, a professional with a genuine fiduciary obligation. The expensive part of that progression is the middle. The bank's in-house advisor and the commission-based independent advisor both have financial products to sell. They are not legally required to recommend what is best for you. They are legally required to recommend what is suitable for you, which is a meaningfully lower bar. A fee-only fiduciary advisor charges a flat fee or a percentage of assets. They receive no commission from the products they recommend. Their legal obligation is to act in your best interest, not in the interest of a product provider. The cost difference between commission-based advice and fee-only fiduciary advice on a moderate portfolio over 20 years is not a small number. An annual fee difference of 1.2% on a £150,000 portfolio compounds to approximately £51,000 in lost returns over 20 years. That is the cost of receiving advice from someone whose income depends on your product selection. Claire found a fee-only advisor at 29 before her financial situation was complex enough to require one. She paid $800 for an initial financial plan. She has updated it twice. The decisions that plan prevented her from making have been worth more than any single decision it prompted. The window on this decision, always open, but the cost of not making it compounds with every year spent inside an alternative arrangement. Decision 4. Build an emergency fund to 3 months of expenses before investing anything outside a pension. The logic for skipping the emergency fund is seductive. Investments return more than a savings account. Every month uninvested is a lost month of compounding. The market is up. This logic is correct in theory and catastrophically wrong in the world where emergencies actually occur. The household without an emergency fund is not an investor. It is an investor with a single point of failure. Any unexpected expense, a boiler replacement, a period of reduced income, a medical bill, forces a choice between high-interest debt and liquidating investments in a moment not of your choosing. Federal Reserve data in the U.S. consistently finds that the median unexpected expense that breaches a household's financial stability is approximately £2,200 to £2,800 equivalent. The interest paid on credit card debt used to cover that expense over the repayment period is between £600 and £1,400, depending on rate and balance. More importantly, the investment liquidation that replaces the emergency fund arrives at a moment of stress, not a moment of strategic choice. Market timing by crisis is not a strategy. The emergency fund is not a conservative alternative to investing. It is the prerequisite for investing with structural integrity. The window on this decision, always open. It is also the most straightforward item on this list, and the one most likely to be the thing standing between a financial plan and its first serious test. Decision 5. Stay in a role that underpays until you have the leverage to leave well. This is the decision that generates the most resistance from people in their late 20s, because it sounds like advice to accept exploitation. It is not. The distinction is between leaving a role impulsively before you have identified a better opportunity, before your skills are visible to an external market, before you have built a reputation that makes competitive offers arrive rather than requiring pursuit, and leaving strategically from a position of documented value into a role that reflects it. The impulsive exit produces a lateral move or a modest improvement. The strategic exit, timed correctly, produces the 15 to 25% step change that restructures a salary trajectory for a decade. Linda Babcock's research at Carnegie Mellon found that professionals who negotiate their exit to a new role rather than accepting the initial offer earn an average of 7% more annually than those who do not. Compounded over 10 years on a £50,000 salary, a 7% higher base produces approximately £37,000 in additional cumulative income before investment. Claire stayed in a role she found limiting for 18 months longer than felt comfortable because she spent those 18 months building a portfolio of measurable results, identifying two competing opportunities, and engineering a moment where she could leave with documentation of her value rather than frustration with her current situation. She left for 22% more than she was earning. The window on this decision, available at any career stage, but most powerful in the late 20s and early 30s, when salary trajectories are still steep and the compounding horizon for a higher base is longest. Decision 6. Buy term life insurance before a health event changes the terms. A 28-year-old in good health can purchase a 25-year term life policy with £500,000 in coverage for approximately £18 to £25 per month. The same policy purchased at 38 following a common health development, elevated blood pressure, a diabetes diagnosis, a mental health treatment, costs £55 to £120 per month, or becomes unavailable at standard rates entirely. The actuarial logic is straightforward. The insurer is pricing the probability of a claim. At 28 and healthy, that probability is low. At 38, after the health landscape is changed, the probability is higher and the price reflects it. The window on this decision is the only one on this list that can close permanently without warning. Every other decision on this list can be made later at a higher cost. This one can become impossible. Claire bought her policy at 26. She pays £22 per month. Her husband was diagnosed with a common thyroid condition at 34. His policy, purchased at 29, costs £31 per month. The same coverage sought today would cost him £180 per month. The window closed before either of them thought it would. Produces the 15 to 25% step change that restructures a salary trajectory for a decade. Linda Babcock's research at Carnegie Mellon found that professionals who negotiate their exit to a new role rather than accepting the initial offer earn an average of 7% more annually than those who do not. Compounded over 10 years on a £50,000 salary, a 7% higher base produces approximately £37,000 in additional cumulative income before investment. Claire stayed in a role she found limiting for 18 months longer than felt comfortable because she spent those 18 months building a portfolio of measurable results, identifying two competing opportunities, and engineering a moment where she could leave with documentation of her value rather than frustration with her current situation. She left for 22% more than she was earning. The window on this decision, available at any career stage, but most powerful in the late 20s and early 30s, when salary trajectories are still steep and the compounding horizon for a higher base is longest. Decision 6. Buy term life insurance before a health event changes the terms. A 28-year-old in good health can purchase a 25-year term life policy with £500,000 in coverage for approximately £18 to £25 per month. The same policy purchased at 38 following a common health development, elevated blood pressure, a diabetes diagnosis, a mental health treatment, costs £55 to £120 per month, or becomes unavailable at standard rates entirely. The actuarial logic is straightforward. The insurer is pricing the probability of a claim. At 28 and healthy, that probability is low. At 38, after the health landscape is changed, the probability is higher and the price reflects it. The window on this decision is the only one on this list that can close permanently without warning. Every other decision on this list can be made later at a higher cost. This one can become impossible. Claire bought her policy at 26. She pays £22 per month. Her husband was diagnosed with a common thyroid condition at 34. His policy, purchased at 29, costs £31 per month. The same coverage sought today would cost him £180 per month. The window closed before either of them thought it would. Decision 7. Build one income stream that does not require your presence. This is the decision that most distinguishes a financial plan from a financial position. A financial plan is something you follow. A financial position is something that generates, a system producing income independently of the hours you trade for it. The income stream does not need to be large in year 1. A rented spare room generating £600 per month, dividend income from an index fund growing toward £400 per month, royalties from a template or guide created once and sold repeatedly, a small online business generating £200 per month in margin. None of these is financial independence by itself. Together or individually scaled over a decade, each one reduces the proportion of your income that depends on your continued presence at your employer. The 10-year cost of not building any income stream outside employment, complete income dependency on a single employer with no buffer against redundancy, restructuring, health disruption, or simply the desire to make a different choice about how you spend your working hours. Claire and her husband rent out her first flat for £850 net per month above mortgage cost. That income contributed £102,000 to their net worth over the past 7 years, without requiring a single active hour of their working week. Decision 8. Read every financial contract you sign. This one appears on the list because nobody takes it seriously until the moment when not having done it costs them something concrete. The mortgage contract with the early repayment charge that makes overpayments uneconomical, the pension transfer that quietly moved assets into a higher fee structure, the life insurance policy with the exclusion that invalidates the most likely claim scenario, the investment platform's terms that create a taxable event at a moment you did not choose. These are not theoretical scenarios. They are the specific mechanisms by which people lose money to documents they signed and never read. The cost of not reading financial contracts is not a round number. It is a specific amount that arrives at a specific moment and cannot be recovered. Claire has a rule. She reads every financial document before she signs it. When she does not understand something, she asks her advisor. When her advisor cannot explain it clearly, she treats that as a signal about the product rather than a gap in her own knowledge. Decision 9. Freeze your lifestyle at its current level for 1 full year after every significant income increase. The raise arrives. The behavioral economics literature is consistent on what happens next. Within 6 to 12 months, the entire increment is absorbed by the lifestyle it enables. The direct debit total rises, the reference class of acceptable spending rises, the floor beneath which the budget cannot comfortably fall has risen. The person who freezes their lifestyle for 1 full year after each income increase and directs the entire increment to investment or debt reduction first is not depriving themselves of anything they had before the raise. They are simply not expanding to fill the new space immediately. On an £8,000 raise at age 30, if the full increment is invested at 8% for 10 years rather than absorbed by lifestyle, the result at age 40 is approximately £118,000 rather than zero. The lifestyle during that decade was identical to the lifestyle of the year before the raise. The net worth trajectory was not.
Claire has received 4 meaningful salary increases since age 27. Each time, she has maintained her existing spending pattern for 12 months before making any lifestyle adjustment. Each time, she has directed the full increment to her pension or her investment account during that period. She describes this as the single discipline that has made the largest visible difference to her net worth. Decision 10. Write a will. This is the decision that most people treat as someone else's problem for the longest period of time. The average age at which people without children write their first will is 48. The average age at which people with young children write their first will is 41. The proportion of adults with no will at all in the United Kingdom is approximately 56%. The will is not primarily about death. It is about specifying, with legal force, what happens to everything you've built if you become incapacitated or die before you choose to. Without it, the default rules of intestacy govern the distribution of your estate. Those rules do not know what you wanted. They apply a formula. The specific costs of dying intestate vary by circumstance and are sometimes catastrophic. A cohabiting partner who is not married and not named in a will receives nothing under UK intestacy rules, regardless of the length or depth of the relationship. An unmarried partner with children from a previous relationship may find their estate divided in ways that directly conflict with every intention they expressed in conversation and never committed to paper. Claire wrote her will at 29. It took one appointment with a solicitor, cost $180, and took 11 days from instruction to signature. The window on this decision, technically always open. Practically, it is the easiest item on this list to defer indefinitely, and therefore the one most likely to be undone by an event that does not give advance notice. Claire is 38. Her net worth is £340,000 on a salary that has never exceeded £52,000. She made all 10 of these decisions before she turned 35. She did not make them because she was financially brilliant. She made them because at each moment, someone she trusted told her that the window was real and the cost of waiting was specific. She is passing that on now. You already know what these decisions are. You've heard most of them before. The question has never been whether you know them. The question is how many you have actually made, and how many of the windows are still open.